After a vacation mode performance against Memphis back on Thursday, Purdue turned around and smacked Texas Tech, reminding us all why they are number one.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Feast Week, baby. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show. Yes, even on this holiday week, we're with you all week long. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, and this is my co-host, Andy Patton. We're with you all the time, and we wouldn't rather be anywhere else in the world. You're joining us at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network now, the number one sports podcast network in the world. Thanks for making us your first listener watch to kick off your feast week, and a special shout out to all our great everydayers, as well as all the members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord. Great hanging out with all of you. This episode's brought to you by Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Andy, I'm ready to eat some turkey. I don't know about you, unless you're a pescatarian, and I never knew it. It's going to be.
It's not true.
It is not true. I'm proud. I do like fish, but not in place of real meat. So there you go. Apologies to all of you who disagree with that. If you are here on this Monday looking for a Players Era Festival preview, we did that on Friday's show so that you could live with it all weekend. So if you're here looking for that, we're going to link it up in the top corner there. Andy will do that when he edits this show, and it'll be great so that you can see it or listen to it as you're driving to your family or trying to escape from your family at some point today. Literally, we have to say a massive word of thanks to all of you who are here with us. Why? Literally, as we were preparing for the show, we hit 5,000 YouTube subscribers, and we couldn't be more grateful. What a perfect week for it, right, Andy? I mean, just really, really cool.
Yeah, incredibly cool. Thank you so much to those of you who have subscribed. When we started the show, 3 years ago, it feels like yesterday, but also forever ago. I don't know how that works, but incredibly cool to see this many people listening to the show. Very honored to continue to get to do this night in and night out into another season.
It's so fun. Can't wait to see who is the champion in our fourth season of doing the show. Here's where we're headed today. We'll start with a Baha Mar recap, that event that culminated with Purdue and Texas Tech on Friday night. BYU took care of Wisconsin in a random, why is this happening on a Friday afternoon game on Friday as Keba Keita returns for BYU. Great news there. We'll also hit some other flybys in that segment. We see you, Butler. We see you, Butler. Yes, yes. And then on the third segment, we're going to get you ready for an unfortunately blah Maui field after two ridiculous Maui fields in the past two seasons. We'll talk about that, as well as why is it that way, all coming up. But Andy, there's nowhere to start than we got two kind of sleepwalky, you're in the Bahamas, maybe you spent too much time at the beach performances from both Purdue and Texas Tech on Thursday night against Memphis and Wake Forest respectively. But oh my, Mr. Patton, Friday night, Purdue Texas Tech square off in the Baha Mar final, and a game that was tied at 20 halfway through the first half. Purdue ends up winning by 30, 86-56 over the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Andy, I think the way I want to ask you this, I'm going to, is this more about Purdue just saying, hey, remember we're number one in the nation? Or is this more about Texas Tech just hasn't figured out who they are yet and is more focused on being a top 5 football team right now?
Yeah, I think this is more about Texas Tech. It feels to me like both Purdue and Texas Tech maybe spent a little bit too much time on the beach before their first games. But Purdue righted the ship. They figured it out. Matt Painter got them going. I don't know what happened with the Red Raiders after their game against Wake Forest, but they just did not have the juice in this game against Purdue. And to be clear, I think it says more about Texas Tech, but you can, that's not to discredit. If you beat a top 15 team in the country by 30, you obviously are a very, very good team. Purdue played fantastic in this game. Their outside shooting is magnificent. And to hang 86 on a team that has significant defensive aspirations like Texas Tech does is a really strong sign for Purdue. But yeah, I was very high on the Red Raiders coming into the year. I had them at times even in my top 5. I think my final rankings had them in the top 10 or right around the top 10, and they have not looked like that team at this point at all. And frankly, the the two of the players that I was most excited about were both transfers from the West Coast Conference. LaJuan Watts coming over from Washington State looked kind of like their Darion Williams replacement at the 3, a versatile do-it-all guy who can really shoot it. And then Tyree Bryan coming over from Santa Clara. He was the 6th man for the Broncos, but he hung 35 points on Gonzaga at the Kennel. He's a very good three-point shooter. And it felt like, one or both of those guys were going to really kind of help mitigate the loss of Williams and help on the perimeter. And they just haven't. I mean, those two guys combined to play, I think, 30-ish minutes total in this game against Purdue and shot it really poorly. LaJuan Watts played just 13 minutes. Again, this guy was like getting all Big 12 buzz coming into the year, and he had 3 fouls, which is more points and rebounds than he had combined. Like, he had 2 rebounds, no points, 3 fouls. Really tough game for LaJuan Watts. Tyree Bryan, I know he's coming off a foot injury, so he's been a little bit slower to get up to full speed, and so I think there's a little bit of grace there, but this team's transfer portal additions have not looked good. And on a roster where Christian Anderson has been great. I mean, he struggled to shoot the rock in this game. He had 1 assist and 3 turnovers, but for the most part, he has been tremendous. And JT Toppin also has been tremendous and had 15 and 8 in this game. If that's a bad game for JT Toppin, that's a good game for most players in college basketball. But at the end of the day, this Texas Tech team, I mean, they need those guys to be Herculean with the way that the rest of the supporting staff is playing. And it's concerning going into a Big 12 where, when Peterson's healthy, Kansas looks good. BYU, we'll talk about them later. They look good. Cincinnati looks pretty good. And obviously you have Iowa State and Houston and teams like that at the top. I would be pretty concerned if I'm Texas Tech at this point like that. You can say, oh, maybe we just flush this game and move on. But like, there's some pretty serious issues for this Red Raiders team. And we saw, a culmination of kind of all of them at once against Purdue. That may not happen anymore, but, thinking this team's going to go 15-3 or whatever in the Big 12, like it doesn't look good at this point.
And I know, like, Texas Tech, let's be fair. It's not just one injury. They've been dealing with a whole bunch of it, like LaJuan Watts himself, right? Was kind of like in and out at the beginning of the season with his own lower body injury. I know JT Toppin had a back thing. And so I think part of it with Texas Tech is getting healthy, which they need to get done. But I think part of it is sometimes teams are taking in this transfer portal era, sometimes teams take longer to gel than others. And you look across at the team they were playing, that's a team that's pretty largely intact. Yes, they bring in some newcomers like an Oscar Cluff, but when you are starting Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, who have been together literally from day one, TKR, and multiple other guys that have been within this program, and rather than having to rely on a LaJuan Watts at a super heavy level because you are missing Darion Williams, who's off at NC State now, you just bring in Oscar Cluff to like help be part of the thing and don't have to. You need Oscar Cluff, and boy, did he ball out in this game, 15 and 15, but it's not as critical as Texas Tech really needing that. And so it's like, maybe we shouldn't have spent quite as much money on JT Toppin and enticed Darion Williams to stick around because we were probably having different conversations if it's Christian Anderson, Darion Williams, and JT Toppin at your 1, 4, and 5, right? Like, that's a whole other thing. Andy, back to the Purdue side of it. I mean, my goodness, in this game, they score 86 points and nobody has more than Oscar Cluff's 15. Why? Because 7 dudes are in double figures, all between 10 and 15 points, including all 5 starters, Daniel Jacobson and Omer Meyer, who is, we're just starting to see more of him really settle in. And that's going to be massive for Purdue. And so yes, Purdue has had a couple sleepy moments, but man, have they continued to answer the bell. And heck, they sleepy moment or not, there's nothing but a 0 in the loss column right now.
Yeah, CJ Cox, great game for him. 10 points in the starting lineup, was efficient. Daniel Jacobson didn't miss a shot in this game. He was 4-4 from the field. He knocked down a 3. He was 2-2 from the line. He had 11 and 8 and 19 minutes for Daniel Jacobson off the bench. Like, just this team is a well-oiled machine, and they, their hiccups are not nearly as catastrophic as a 30-point loss type of hiccup that we have here for Texas Tech. I mean, the conversation around Arizona and the resume that they've put together, and certainly Houston and Purdue, like, I get that there's some narrative there that we'll see what happens. As many of you are listening to this, the AP poll has likely come out. We're recording before that happens, but I think Purdue settled settled any thought of them not being number one on Monday by blasting a top 15 team by 30. Kind of can't do much more than that for Purdue. So I think they're in a really good spot here. And it was kind of fun for Purdue fans, not only get an opportunity to see their team win, but one of the coolest things that happened while in Baja Mar for this event was that Miles Colvin, former Purdue Boilermaker, playing for Wake Forest, and hits the game winner for the Demon Deacons over Memphis in that third place game. Wake Forest are the cardiac kids. This year, they played a OT loss to Michigan. They narrowly lost to Texas Tech in this first game and then turned around and just barely beat Memphis 69-68. Again, Colvin not only won it as a former Purdue player, but it was that pacer play, the Homer Drew play, the play that they used to beat Ole Miss with Bryce Drew back in 1998. So it was very cool to see that play kind of back in the college basketball space, to see a nice win for Wake Forest after two agonizingly close losses. You got to feel pretty good if you're Steve Forbes and the Demon Deacons for getting a W here and bouncing back from that close game against Texas Tech. But Isaac, Memphis had opportunities to beat the number one team in the country. They had an opportunity to beat a good Wake Forest team and came very close in both instances. And now they sit with a pretty ugly record at 1-4. Gotta be some concern building in Memphis for Penny Hardaway.
Andy, let me go back to Wake really quick. These dudes, like Steve Forbes is like Mr. Bubble at this point. Poor Wake cannot fight their way off the boat, because if they win that Texas, like a Texas Tech win for them is resume huge. Had they won that Michigan, I mean, can you imagine if Wake had banked a win over Michigan and Texas Tech, who were two preseason top 15? I mean, good grief. Wake would be sitting pretty. I will say, they look much better than I thought they would be. They're much more athletic. Juke Harris is a dude, Andy. And so I think, they're that's a top half ACC team right now that we're talking about. And so good for them to be able to get this win over Memphis. And I just hate it for them that Steve Forbes missed both those others. Anyway, Memphis and Penny, dude, we're about to talk about PJ Haggerty, who I know Kansas State lost their championship game of their MTE, but PJ's over here near double-double every night. You talk about letting guys go that you should have paid. Why did they mess around with that? Like, I know there was the NBA draft stuff and all of that, but just like figure that out. The fact that he's gone, he's balling out in Manhattan, and they're 1-4. Oh, Andy. Oh, it's painful to watch. Penny probably it should have been done before now. I just don't like, is this the first, I know American isn't P5, whatever, fine. The highest profile coach that might lose a job mid-season this year. That's a very real possibility in my mind.
Yeah. Fully new roster. The construction of the roster doesn't feel all that great. Like, the pieces don't seem like they are going to fit together. Like with Texas Tech, it's like, okay, we can see the vision at least and expect that it's going to kind of come together. But for Penny's team, I'm like, I don't even know if I can see how all these pieces are supposed to fit together and how it's supposed to work. And that is definitely alarming. I think for that team, you look at South Florida's playing well. Like, I think if Penny, there's a very real chance that Memphis does not make the NCAA tournament, does not finish at the top of the American Conference. And I don't know how on earth you keep Penny after that, if that ends up happening. So I think that these, they're 1-4. Their one win is a decent win. It was against
that's the good news.
Yeah, that's a pretty good win for them. But they're not in a good spot right now, and I don't really have a ton of confidence that it's going to get a lot better for them this year. And that very well could be. I was going to say that March may be Penny's last month, but honestly, you might be right. He might not even make it that long.
Well, and part of it is because they scheduled aggressively this year. Yes, their next two games are Southern Illinois and New Orleans, but Andy, early December, they got Baylor, they got Louisville, they got a better than most people realize Vanderbilt team, Mississippi State, who I know, didn't fare this well this weekend, but that's probably a 4-game losing streak right there. And man, we could be looking at a 3-8 Memphis team after that. Yeah. Gross.
Well, we're going to talk BYU. Got themselves a nice win over Wisconsin, and another Big 12 team, Cincinnati, nearly pulled off what would have been an incredible upset over 6th-ranked Louisville. We're going to talk about those two games, some flybys as well, all coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, the holiday season is right around the corner, and that means it's time to get your home ready. Whether you need more seating for guests, cozy new linens, or fun serveware for holiday hosting, Wayfair's Black Friday sale is here to make your space shine. And the best part is you don't have to wait. Wayfair's Black Friday deals are happening all month long with up to 70% off everything from sofas to spatulas. And decorating for the holidays is hands down one of my favorite parts of the year. I always want to add new stuff as much as possible, so I love that Wayfair is there to help supply all of it. And if you've ever hosted family for the holidays, you know what I'm talking about. Just a few new touches in your house can make a huge difference, and Wayfair makes that so easy. And importantly, right now, I want to make sure everything arrives in time. And with Wayfair, I couldn't believe how fast everything shipped. It got here just in time for those holiday events. And browsing through their site, it's easy to find pieces that fit my style. There's nothing generic, just quality designs that feel very personal. So don't miss out on early Black Friday deals. Head to wayfair.com now to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale for up to 70% off. That's wayfair.com. Sale ends December 7th. All right, folks, welcome in segment 2, Locked On College Basketball. I want to thank all of you who have made this show your first listen of the day, and thanks to all of you who have helped make this show the #1 sports podcasting network on the planet. And of course, again, thank you to all of you for helping us get to 5,000 subscribers on the Locked On College Basketball YouTube channel. We got a couple other games to recap from over the weekend, going all the way back to Friday. As Isaac said in the open, there is a kind of a random top 25 matchup between two schools in Utah and Salt Lake City on a Friday afternoon on just the most hideous court that I've ever seen in the world. I know that they're doing the in-season trophy courts for the NBA, but why on earth did we have to watch like Wisconsin's red on that purple court for the Jazz was just, it made my eyes bleed a little bit. It was a bit of a rough game to watch. Certainly a rougher game to watch if you were a Wisconsin fan, as BYU easily dispatched the Badgers. 98-70 was the final score there. Richie Saunders, the star for the Cougars, 26 points for him. AJ DeBansa, 18 points, only 3 of 8 shooting, but he did go 11 of 12 from the free throw line. He is just an absolute menace in terms of getting to the free throw line, drawing contact, getting those whistles. And then I think the big story for BYU, Isaac, was the return of Keba Keita. We saw him get hurt. He suffered that concussion last week and was really kind of concerned of like, those things can linger and we're not sure how long he's going to be out. And it looks like, obviously he's healthy, played just 15 minutes in this game, but again, it was a 28-point win. So I think for BYU, they didn't need to push him back any more than that. And I'll tell you, this team's ceiling is a whole heck of a lot higher with a healthy Keba Keita. They really need him down on the block.
Yeah, Andy, I think you hit that spot on. To me, it's not about how long he played or how effective he was. It's just that he's there and how quickly this return was. I had in real time when he went out recently, I was just like, I mean, gosh, you hope you get him back by early December, maybe Christmas time, whatever it is. And so this is a big win. You can kind of slowly get him back in, but to get him 15 minutes in a top 25 matchup and they just blow out like this, it's so great. Andy, you mentioned it with AJ. You mentioned, we had some concern over how Richie Saunders would do with the ball dominance of Rob Wright and AJ DeBanson. How would they figure that out? And the sooner they figured out how to utilize Richie better, they would be in better shape. Well, here you go. Right. So I'm very encouraged to see this by BYU, that they're getting that going more quickly than we realize. And in a game where, good night. I mean, we're going to talk PJ Haggerty in just a second and his near triple double. Rob Wright in this basketball game was not efficient shooting, 4 of 12, but he had 10 points, 11 assists, just 2 turnovers, Andy, and was 3 rebounds shy of a triple-double, 7. I mean, you just see these pieces starting to come into place. I love that AJ's not forcing it. He's like, oh, Richie's having a game. Cool. Yeah. I'm not going to take a ton of shots, but I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to get to the free throw line. I'm going to get 6 rebounds. I'm going to have 3 assists. I mean, it's just really, really good stuff from BYU, not the 7 players in double figures of Purdue that we just talked about, but I thought a really complete game from this team. And as you continue to work Keba Keita back in, oh my, BYU's looking really good. And, as we just talked about Texas Tech, I think there might be some shifting in my head of some of that Big 12 power structure.
Yeah, 100%. I think on the Wisconsin side of things, like we went in hard on Texas Tech and their loss here. I'm going to go a little lighter on Wisconsin, although some of the same things I think apply in this game. That now again they traveled to a pseudo road environment. Playing
Right.
BYU in Salt Lake City is definitely different. But Wisconsin just ugly shooting game. 38% from the field, 7 of 29 from three. I mean, they missed 22 threes in this game. This is a team that really lives and dies on the perimeter, and they're going to miss John Tonje a lot this year. Just somebody who could go get a bucket or at least go get to the free throw line. Blackwell was good in this game. I mean, good in the sense he had 14 points, but he had 13 from the field. Nolan Winter was 14 and 14, which is a great line, but he missed all of his 3-point attempts. And then one of their big and again, I feel like I don't know how the synergy here, but we're really just blasting WCC transfers because we talked about LaJuan Watson, Tyree Bryan, and now Austin Rapp, who transferred from Portland to Wisconsin. He was not good in this game. 2 points, 2 turnovers, 0 of 7 from the field, 0 of 5 from 3. Really struggled. I'm glad we're going to talk a little bit about Butler and Michael Ajayi later because there were some good players and Malik Thomas for Virginia who transferred out of the WCC. But man, Austin Rapp really struggled in this one. I think Wisconsin will figure it out, but I'm more concerned for them. Like they had an off shooting night, whatever that happens. They're going to score a lot of points this year, but you can't give up 98 points. Like the defense absolutely has to get better and a lot better for this team to truly finish. I think they have aspirations of being a top 5 team in the Big Ten. And with defense like this, they're definitely not going to finish there. And they might struggle to even finish in the top 10. I think they'll get better as the year goes on. Hear me say that, but it was a rough start and they did not look particularly good on that end of the floor in this one.
No, and Andy, you talked about the 3-point shooting. Yes, they were 7 of 29 as a team, which is bad, but the starting 5, Andy, was 2 of 21 from 3, which is, I mean, just like, that's just painful. And there's going to be nights like that, but you just can't allow it to be a consistently bad thing, which is part of it. And another thing I'll say for BYU that I thought was really good is they had a 12-point halftime lead, and you wonder, like, is Wisconsin going to make a big push? Like, BYU won the second half even bigger, 53-37. So I think that's another feather in the Cougars' hat. Again, it's a home-ish game, and so whatever with that. Andy, let's turn our attention to another Big 12 team. You mentioned Cincinnati. They're playing Louisville, and if you just look at the final score, 74-64, the Cardinals win over Cincinnati. But Andy, the Bearcats are up 4 at halftime. I know we've kind of like, is Wes Miller a little bit on the hot seat here? You love to see them having a good showing, but you would love to see them maybe be able to finish it off. And unfortunately, they can't. Louisville just continues to impress, Andy, with a nice second half to get this win.
Yeah, 46 points in the second half. Just made some good adjustments for Pat Kelsey's team and Wes Miller and the Bearcats. Just, they're a good defensive team. And I think holding Louisville to 74 points is probably going to end up aging well. I think Louisville is going to score more than that most of the time. But for Cincinnati, I mean, the offense just wasn't there. Only scored 64 points. And I think that's definitely the concern with this team. I mean, they went out and got some really good transfers, players like Tiam and Baba Miller, who are great defensive players, but they're not great offensive players. They're not great scorers. And I mean, Louisville's not a great defensive team. And yet, since he only scores 64 points, like that to me is the concern for Wes Miller and the Bearcats. I think I like this roster. I think the talent is there, and I would like to see them compete more in the Big 12, but I'm just worried that they're not going to be able to find a way to put points on the board. Meanwhile, for Louisville, I mean, Ryan Conwell had 25, 5 of 10 from 3. Mikal Brown was great again. I mean, he didn't have a very efficient night, 4 of 15, but he was 12 of 14 from the line, 22 points and 6 assists. If Brown and Conwell are playing like that, like this team, and if Adrian Woolley is contributing as well, like this team is going to be really, really tough. And there's a reason they're, bordering on being a top 5 team in the country. And they showed it by kind of taking their lumps from Cincinnati in the first half and turning around and having a really strong second half to get a W here.
All right, Andy, some quick flybys for us. We had it's kind of coming into vogue, these 4-team MTEs instead of the 8-team 3-game situation. A lot of teams are more apt to play that now. And so we in addition to Baja Mar, we had the Hall of Fame Classic over the weekend. Nebraska beats Kansas State 86-85 in the championship game. In the third place game, New Mexico beats Mississippi State. Tough there. PJ Haggerty, we've said it a couple times now, a near triple-double in both games for Kansas State. 38, 7, and 8, Andy, which is insane. Yeah. And then secondly, in the championship game, 27, 6, and 7. Really, really good stuff. And again, painful for Memphis to watch that happen. Mississippi State, Andy, is just not very good. Hate it for Chris Jans, hate it for Hubbard in coming back to school. Clemson wins the Charleston Classic over Georgia, 97-94 in overtime. A bit of a crazy ending, Andy. We were kind of talking about that. Obviously, we're flying by, so we don't have much time to discuss it. Third place game is ongoing as we record between West Virginia and Xavier. Butler wins the Greenbrier tip-off, Andy. They beat Virginia, who was kind of a trendy. Is Ryan Odom going to have this thing going pretty quick? And so Butler, good on you, man. We've been wondering what's going to happen with the Big East. Maybe Butler can make some noise. They also beat South Carolina on Friday, the worst of the SEC schools, but still they beat an SEC school and Virginia. So we'll look at that. Virginia did beat Northwestern, but barely. Slower trajectory than we thought. Maybe so. South Carolina, Northwestern playing in the third place game as we pod. Back on Thursday, USC needed triple overtime to get past Troy. All right, There you go. And Andy, shouts to your boys. Seattle U win at Stanford, first time in program history. Go Red Hawks, big time there. There's some flybys, Andy. Any quick things to add there?
The fighting Gordon Haywards, love our guy Gordon, love to see his Butler team playing well. They were a possession away from beating SMU, in which case we'd be having an even bigger conversation about the Butler Bulldogs. But love to see them playing well. And got to shout out the Red Hawks. Their leading scorer went 1 of 8 from the field, and they went on the road and beat a very good Stanford team. That is exciting for them in their first year in the WCC.
Andy, I hadn't looked. Butler's up to 48th at Ken Palm right now, 4th in the conference behind UConn, St. John's, obviously, but then Villanova and Butler ahead of Creighton at Ken Palm right now. Andy, wow, I hadn't looked that up. Pretty crazy stuff.
This is a little bit more about Creighton, but still good news for Butler.
That's fair. That's a great point. Oh, man, Andy. One of the premier college basketball MTEs gets underway on Monday out in Maui, but this year is not your dad's Maui Invitational. We'll explain why coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about game time, y'all, college football is back. We couldn't be more excited. We're coming down to the nitty gritty. One more week of the regular season, but there's still tailgates, the rivalries. This is rivalry week, man. The energy in the stands, there's absolutely nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets to these games can sometimes feel like more of a battle than the actual game itself. Endless lines, there's hidden fees, the prices jump up on you at checkout. You don't need that, man. That's a mess. And that's why you got to use Game Time, just like me and Andy do. The app that gives the advantage back to you, the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is actually what you pay. Honestly, it really is faster, it's cheaper, and oh my goodness, is it less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. And I love that you can find a view from your seat right there in the app. It's so cool. Players Era Festival getting underway today. Great tickets at all the venues at MGM Grand Garden. You can get in for session 1 like Monday morning for $32. Maybe you missed that. You want to get there later today. $122 for tonight's session, which would include Alabama and Gonzaga, oh my, and Maryland and UNLV. Great stuff there. Maybe you want to go to the Michelob Ultra Arena. Session 1 Monday morning includes Baylor versus Creighton, St. John's, Iowa State. Wow, you can get in for that for $181, or later in the today at Mick Ultra. 174 will get you Oregon and Auburn, Michigan, San Diego State. Great stuff. Go check it out, or the rest of the week as well. Take the guesswork out of buying college basketball and football tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms do apply. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. We want to get you ready for Monday's action. One more reminder, we've already done our Players Era Festival preview, which was Friday's show. Go back and check that out, like a show-length preview of that event where we just pick all the games. Lots of fun. But we want to get to what is traditionally, at least for a good long while now, been the premier MTE of Feast Week. It always runs Monday to Wednesday, and that's the Maui Invitational. We've got other big-time MTEs coming up later in the week. We'll get to those as they come. But Andy, I'm going to read off the matchups for today in round 1, and then everyone will kind of start to see it. The first tip is the top half of the bracket, 2:30 Eastern, Seton Hall and number 25 NC State, the only ranked team in this event. The second tip, 5 p.m. Eastern, is USC Boise State. The bottom half of the bracket, these two winners and two losers will face off 9 Eastern tonight. Wazoo against Chaminade. Reminder, Chaminade is only an every other year team now. And then the nightcap, 11:30 Eastern, is Arizona State and Texas. Andy, with that, I say, oh my, because we think back to the previous 2 years of the Maui bracket, which has been probably the two greatest Mauis I can remember, at least in terms of like ranked teams and highly ranked teams and all that. And then you look at this, and I remember when it came out this summer, and we were just like, oh no, Andy, what do you make? Let's talk about the bracket first, the games, all of that stuff, and then we can talk about the history of it.
Yeah, it's certainly a field that has dipped. I would, again, no debate there. We'll get into that, but I do like some of these matchups. I think there's some intrigue here. It's just doesn't have the flashiness or the star power necessarily. Seton Hall, NC State feel like Seton Hall's playing pretty well. They haven't been super challenged. They haven't played any super great teams. I don't think they'll beat NC State. I think NC State's a better and more complete team, but I don't think that that's a shoe-in either. I do think Shaheen Holloway's team could potentially give Will Wade's club some issues. USC Boise State, a game that looked like it might have been a better matchup a couple weeks ago before the season began, and then Boise State lost to a D2 school, and USC nearly lost to Troy, had to go into 3 overtimes to win that one. So certainly kind of dulled the matchup for that one, although I still think that'll be at least a close game. I'm not sure that either team is super great, but they might play a competitive game, which is kind of what you're wanting. As long as the matchups are fun and close, you can deal with the teams not being quite as good. Wazoo, Chaminade. Wazoo is very bad. Like they are. It's pretty shocking how not good they have been this year. The 2 years ago, they're in the NCAA tournament. They obviously moved from the Pac-12 to the WCC, and we know that really hurt them financially, and we're really seeing that play out this year. They have struggled tremendously in the early part of the season. Should be able to get a W over Chaminade here, but it's not been pretty. Arizona State played a competitive game against Gonzaga at their home, and I think is a decent team. Texas should win that game, but that's probably the most intriguing matchup to me. It's close between that and Seton Hall and NC State, but I think Texas will win. Dalen Swain's a very good player. Sean Miller, great coach. But I think that's going to be a fun matchup as well, and I'm excited to see how that one plays out. But yeah, the fact that we're deciding between Arizona State and Texas or Seton Hall and NC State is the best matchup when previous iterations have had 5 or 6 ranked teams in this event is pretty telling.
Also, as an aside, I feel like the organizers usually give Chaminade to like the best team in the field. How did Wazoo get Chaminade instead of Texas or NC State? Like that. Anyway, I look at the bottom half of this bracket, Andy, and I feel like Texas's path to the championship is much easier than NC State's. Like, to me, those are clearly the best 2 teams in this event. NC State is going to be a tougher matchup against, Texas probably has the tougher first round matchup against Arizona State. I think that's a tougher matchup than the Seton Hall NC State one. But good grief, like Texas, assuming they can get by the Sun Devils, like Wazoo or Chaminade. I mean, come on, what are we doing? And so that's the thing. But to Andy's point, last year you had number 2 UConn, who hilariously enough went 0-3 in this event. Auburn, number 4 at the time. Iowa State, number 5. North Carolina, number 12. They fell off as well. An unranked Michigan State, who ultimately went to the Elite 8. Yes, Memphis, Dayton, and Colorado the year before. Number 1, Kansas. Number 2, Purdue. Number 4, Marquette. Number 7, Tennessee. Number 11, Gonzaga. UCLA, Syracuse, and Chaminade. I mean, those were the fields, Andy. And now we're looking at this, and like, for my money, yes, it's like a great opportunity for these teams. Like, if Will Wade and NC State can get this, that's great for them, but it just like doesn't have the luster of what it should have. And I think the problem is the storyline here is less about the teams playing in it and the games and more about like, what in the name of Players Era Festival is happening here?
Well, I think that's, it's so funny because when the Players Era Festival first started kind of coming together, and there was, the last year's event was just 8 teams. And then we kind of knew that this year's event was going to be bigger. Like, there was kind of this canary in a coal mine moment where there was folks, I know Matt Norlander at CBS was really championing this, of saying like, hey, like this is going to signal the death of traditional MTEs. Like those types of events are either going to need to rapidly adjust their formula, or they're going to be quickly wiped away. And the events still exist, obviously, and are probably not going to just disappear. but the imminence in terms of how quickly this happened, like it went from being a really, really good field with 3 top 5 teams last year, with 4 top 10 teams the year prior, and 5 top 11 teams, to 1 ranked team in their 25th. And nobody else who's really that close to being ranked. Texas is not that close to being a ranked team. Arizona State, USC are mediocre power conference teams. Wazoo and Boise State are not playing well. Like, this is not a good field. And some of these teams, I think, have the potential to be better as the year goes on or whatever, but is a dramatic, sharp drop off. And again, we'll give you a preview of the battle for Atlantis in a couple of episodes, but it's going to be a similar conversation. Like, that's the St. Mary's is the favorite there. I think Vanderbilt's the favorite, and St. Mary's is in that field. Those are the kind of your top 2 teams, and both those teams are playing well this year, which kind of helps elevate that event a little bit. But it's rough. Like, it did not take long for these events to very suddenly become mediocre power conference / good mid-major program events. And that's fine. And I actually kind of like the idea. I think it would be fun. And we are not in the position to have this conversation right now, but I think it would be fun for these events to maybe even kind of remarket themselves of like power conference versus, mid-major, like A10 versus Big 10 or something like that would be really fun.
Yeah.
Because I think people would probably care more about that than Texas, Arizona State. Like, I just don't think that that's going to draw all that much interest, whereas a power conference versus mid-major type of event maybe would. But if these events are hoping that they're going to start getting, those big teams coming back, they're not. I mean, this is not going to happen for them unless they change their format. And I think it was an anonymous coach who basically said, or no, it was Bill Self, and he said this very diplomatically, but effectively what he was communicating was, I can choose to either spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to Hawaii, and that's money that I don't get to spend on my roster, or I can go to Las Vegas and make money. I can make enough money to pay for a starting player, or I can go to Hawaii and not have enough money to pay a bench player. What am I going to choose? It's not a hard choice. Like, it's not a difficult choice. And I don't blame any program for making the choice that they're making, especially when those checks cleared last year. But yeah, we said this a bunch last year and over the summer when we were talking about these events, adapt or die. And if Maui and Atlantis and ESPN events and all these events choose to keep going with this path, these are the kind of fields they're going to get.
Yeah. Andy, here is one bit of good news. The Maui 2026 field is out. Mm-hmm. And if it were today, there would be 2 top 10 teams in the event, Arizona and BYU, plus other teams of note, Clemson, Washington, Ole Miss, Colorado State, VCU, and Providence. So you've got some other, high major teams that are either good or are getting better. You've got a couple mid majors in VCU and Colorado State that are perennially seen as pretty good. And, Providence, that's like, they're coming along, and so I think there is a trend back up next year, but I'm curious to see like 3, 4, 5 years down there, when it gets, what is this 25, like what's 2030 look like? So I don't know. We'll see. I hope this can be salvaged because I love these events. But I'm somebody that's out here yearning for like, bring back the Great Alaska Shootout. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we'll see what happens, but adapt or die. I think that's a big part of this whole thing. Andy, get us out of here.
Well, folks, that's going to wrap it up for us today. An incredible day of basketball coming up with all the Players Era Festival games, with so many other fantastic games. Today, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way through Feast Week. Thanksgiving's got some phenomenal isolated matchups as well. We're going to get you previews, recaps for all those games here. This is one of the biggest weeks of the season. We're really happy to be able to bring you as much content as we can here throughout Feast Week. As always, we want to say apologies to the Lawyer family, even after that 30-point win. Cheers to the McBruins. Let's go Wild Popes. And until Tuesday, peace out.